Thank you for joining us again. With less than 5 months, so the expiration of President Muhammadu Buhari's 8-year administration, available data has shown that the government has left more Nigerians poorer and unemployed than it met in 2015, despite coming to power partly on the promise to create 24 million jobs. The rate of unemployment in the second quarter of 2015, as released by the National Bureau of Statistics, was around 14.9%, with the country's unemployed persons put at about 6.1 million. 7 years later, data shows that the unemployment rate stands at 33.3%. With this followed the fourth quarter report of 2020, when the rate was last released by NBS, estimated to be about 23.18 million Nigerians that are still unemployed. But while experts have warned that the country's unemployment rate may hit 37% in the coming years, what are the implications of these as we assess the Buhari administration performance with regards to job creation schemes as promised? Well, joining us to talk more about this is Sumbo Badijoko, Policy and Public Affairs Analyst. He joins us virtually. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you. First, before I ask you about these numbers that are out there and the concern about some aspects, let's look at the job creation schemes of the Buhari administration, the assessment with what he has done. He said it was going to create about 24 million jobs. So that perhaps that didn't work out, and the unemployment rate has risen from 14.9% in 2015 to 33.3%. How would you address this?
You know, when a new government is coming aboard, there are so many promises that will be made, and we call them campaign promises. So when this
I don't know if you can hear me, Sumbo. Perhaps it looks like the internet is disrupting too early into our conversation now. But if you can hear me,
now,
yes, go ahead. Please go ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So now, insecurity escalated under Buhari. Wherever you have insecurity, it will chase away investments. And when investments are not coming in, and that's coupled with dilapidating infrastructures, there will be job loss. So it's not that the government did not create jobs, but when you look at the creation, the number of people that got employment compared to those that actually lost their job, you will see that it is in the negative. And that is why, despite the effort of creating jobs by the president, a lot of people also went out of job. And that is the reason why we have that figure out there.
Oh, okay. But if you look at it now, the figure is staggering at 33.3%, and that is a reality on ground at the moment. And so, how do we address these continuous rising? Because analysts have said that there's going to be the number is going to rise. It's going to get worse to around 37% this year.
Yes, the number might get right, but I wouldn't want to believe that it could get to 37%, simply because this is a transition year. The number is increasing now because so many people are holding on, waiting to know who will take over from him. And because of that, a lot of things are slowed down. There are so many investors hanging out of the country right now who wanted to know where are the policy direction of the new government, what that would be. So those ones, by the time the new government comes in, the highlights of the new administration will definitely come in. But before that can be guaranteed, security will need to be addressed. And because that is the main reason why we have this kind of unemployment rate that we have now. And once the country is secured, and that's why you find one of the presidential candidates, hammering on the fact that he would first of all secure the nation before any other thing. That once the nation is secured, every other thing becomes easy. And that is very correct. And when you have security in place, Nigeria has enormous potentials. This is a place that we have the market. There is availability of human capacity, human resources, and there is also market. So any investor would want to go into an environment that has this double advantage, and that will naturally create jobs. By the time you put more investment in education, we will have people with requisite qualification. By the time you fix power, people will go self-employed. There are so many people with innovative ideas, but could not put them into practice. When you make credit available for would-be investors and the interest rates comes to single digits, a lot of people will start on their own and they will be out of that unemployed ratio. And you find that within 6 months, if aggressive measure is made towards making these things available, the figure will not go up, but will rather come down.
Okay. I mean, but in reality, the figure is still very alarming at 33.3% now. And this, of course, is a concern according to economists. That is a concern for the next administration, and this is what the next administration is going to be dealing with. So let's look at the implication this will create, the challenges and the problem this will create for the incoming government, and how well do you think they are prepared? Perhaps let's start from the implications and the challenges as the next government inherits this.
It's going to put a lot of pressure on them, especially coupled with the fact that about 40% of the electorate happens to be youth of working age. And when you look at that class, about 60 million Nigerians are youth, and they constitute a larger block of those that will be voting too. Now, they are coming with high expectation, and by the time they cast their vote for the candidate of their choice, if the person comes on board, like I used to say, that the next president will not enjoy the kind of honeymoon that President Buhari had enjoyed in the first year of his administration. Things have been so deteriorated, and he will be inheriting that pressure. Don't forget the subsidy regime is still there. It's one of the pioneer decisions that the new administration will have to make. And if you are taking away subsidy, you have to give something back in return for the people to be able to really cooperate with you. So those are things that will be, and you have to, the person will have to, the new next president will have to go and organize an immediate stakeholders meeting with the Manufacturers Association, with bankers, with those who are investors, and with Nigerians in diaspora, so that we'll be able to attract as much investment as possible. But in the meantime, the most important or the priority of the next administration will be security. Once security is in place, the others will follow. But nobody wants to come into an insecure environment.
Interesting, like you said, nobody is going to come with it. But let me take you back a little bit in terms of creating jobs. And what are the things we need to begin to look at? Because when the government came in, they created, different schemes. The Empower is there. The Empower thing is there. The programs, social programs, investment is there, where they budgeted about 500 to empower people, the market women, the money market, and all of that. These are schemes really to empower people. Perhaps that could empower people to create jobs or start business and create jobs. So let's look at maybe we should learn from other developed economies to see what we can duplicate in the country here. So what are the ideals really in terms of creating a shared prosperity?
If I get the question correctly, part of what we can use is, for instance, We need to look at the area of public, the area of the empowerment scheme.
Yes, I guess we're still having a distortion there in the conversation, or will I say this, if a distortion in the flow of our conversation here. Yeah, Mr. Badajuk, if you can hear me, well, we are trying to share the ideals with us, or what we can learn from other developed countries, because some economists have argued in the past that the empowering people really, or creating jobs, it's to start by addressing structural problems, not to just tackle it from the top, but to tackle it from bottom. And so if you're there, please speak to these issues. Well, I think we're still having issues there. So let's quickly take a break. When we can reconnect back, we'll bring him back again to continue on that thought. This is Business Breakfast. Please stay with us. We have Sunbo Badejiko, Policy and Public Affairs Analyst. We have him back now. So I need you to finish on that thought. Talk to us on these issues, because...
yes, I was saying there are measures that can be taken.
Yes, go ahead.
For instance, in 1929, the United States had this Wall Street crash, which led to a Great Depression. And the government of the day put all manner of moratorium in place, and it didn't work because the government did not do enough in terms of leaving most of these critical decisions in the hands of the private individual. But then another government came in place 4 years later with a new deal, and it set up public work schemes, and there was mass recruitment. People were mobilized en masse to fund critical infrastructure to put in place, and they were developing the infrastructure, and within 2 years, the impact of the government was felt across the country, meaning that the next government will look in the direction of something like that. That government and what they are trying to do with Empower will need to be expanded. Rather than looking at just 500,000 people, you go to as much as 5 million, but you put them in strategic areas, agriculture, deploy them to the farms. We have enough farms for cultivation. Within a year, the output will solve food inflation. Deploy them to road construction. Within a year, they would have worked to accelerate the putting in place of infrastructure. But in all this will not be effective. They won't work out if there is no security. Nobody wants to go into the forest to work as a farm worker when they know that there are bandits in there parading the forest with heavy ammunition. So until the government works on how to withdraw the small arms and light weapons that are in the wrong hands from them and secure the nation, that is when the confidence will be restored and people will want to. A good number of those that are leaving the country, they have good jobs. Some of them are comfortable, but the security is what is sending them away, and that's why they are leaving the country. And until that is addressed by the government, policies are going to be implemented by.
Now, apart from the issue of
you can do that.
Okay, I was going to ask you just quickly, apart from the issue of insecurity, I mean, we also need to look at friendly policies from the government. The government is supposed to create an enabling business environment so that businesses can thrive. I mean, when businesses thrive, jobs will be created. These businesses will employ more, and then, of course, the economy will expand. Well, it looks like some of the policies are not friendly. You talk about tax burden. Some companies have complained about tax burden as well. So if you have to create jobs, apart from creating direct jobs, which of course we'll talk about the empower, but you also need to empower businesses so that they can create jobs as well. They take more people, into the labor market from the street. But it looks like that is not happening. So how would you also assess this government based on that and the policies they've created and all that?
in fairness to the government, a lot of money has been pumped into SMEs. But when you look at the forest crisis, for instance, the absence of refinery, and the fact that the economy is powered on petroleum, we need to have stable government, a stable source of power coming from government. And that will bring down the cost of production. There are policies in place, and the reason why you have the taxes there is because of the revenue crisis. That is what the government is using to raise, to bridge the revenue gap, because the oil and gas is not remitting as much as it ought to remit. And we need money to be able to service the debt, pay off the ones that we have, and avoid future debt. So all these are what is putting pressure on the government. But it is not only the federal government that can take people out of job. State governments who need to do more in helping to create an enabling environment. For instance, the state governments are the ones controlling the lands. Now, when you have a master plan, okay, this is an industrial area, you can also reach out to people, create an immediate infrastructure in that environment. You may not have control over power, but you can still put road network in place. And the investors would see that there's a road network. You can still help in securing the environment. And that will attract them, because our population is a guarantee that access to labor will not be an issue for any would-be investor. And that's why we can't just shy away from security. Once that is solved, it's like the prime thing. It's like the pillar, the main.
I'm sure that we'll still have Mr. Badejiko there to wrap up on that thought, to see how we can look at what the government can do in the immediate 1, 2, 3.
There's this MSME trust fund, which is also made for small and medium scale enterprise. But all these are not reflecting, because the environment is not enabling enough for people to really work. So you don't find a situation where some will collect this loan or this intervention and just leave the country.
Okay, let's quickly look at how we can, what the government needs to put in place to perhaps see these numbers reflected in the labor market. Because remember, when the government came in 2015, especially this, I'm talking about the current government, they talk about the problem they inherited from the past, administration, and perhaps they said that slowed their performance as well. And so, in order for this, the next administration not to toe the same line, so what are some of the things you think the current administration can do in the area of job, improving employment, trying to reduce the rate of unemployment, such that the next administration will not have to, inherit a huge number of unemployment rate?
They will definitely inherit a huge number. But what they need to do about it is what we've been trying to address since.
Okay. The
first priority of the new government is to get the refineries working, so that the petroleum products would be coming at a cheaper amount. Okay. That would bring down the cost of production. That will create an enabling environment in a way. They need to also ensure that power generation is not an exclusive matter. An aggressive legislation needs to be made on power. The grid needs to be unbundled, so that the industrial area can be concentrated with grid power, while the residential area can be used, or you can create an alternative power supply for those areas, because they don't require much, they don't have much consumption in terms of the load on the pressure on the grid. So that is another immediate priority. And when there is power, it's called power for a purpose. It's actually electricity, but it is what powers the economy. It is what creates, what attracts investments. We are now in the fourth industrial revolution, which is majorly on information and communication technology, which is ICT. We have brilliant individuals. Talk about the Flutterwave guys. Talk about those the guys that did what is it called now?
You have
this payment platform.
You have the Paystar. Yes, you have the pay stack.
Yes,
Of course, with the
paystack
ICT.
guys. No, these are guys that have innovated, brought about innovation on ICT. But you know, ICT relies on power. And we have so many brilliant guys who are also looking at, there are so many app developers. A photo graduate just developed an airplane and a Testronics. Such a person will need an environment to develop a full-fledged Boeing aircraft, and it would work because he already has the skill of his brains. So he just need an enabling environment. So the first priority of the new administration is to create that enabling environment for investors, for the potentials of every individuals to come in. Also, there is also, sports can also generate a lot of employment if it is properly developed. Entertainment is doing fine, but can also improve. But sports is something that we've not really tapped into. If the state level can create a good youth development and sport programs, you find the situation, for instance, in the United States, United Kingdom, what the Premier League alone is contributing to the economy is running into millions of pounds. That can be emulated. We have people that are skilled in various forms of sports events in Nigeria, but they are not being encouraged in any way. So the big government just need to first of all work on how to create an enabling environment, and you see the ruggedness of an individual Nigerians begin to come into play, and you see things
just in 30 seconds. Are you saying that this current government may not be able to do anything before the tenure winds down in the next 4 months?
They would not be able to do much because politics is in the air.
Okay.
It's a ruling party. Their main priority now is how their party will not lose out in the next election.
Okay. I think we should leave it there. Thank you so much, Sumba Badejo, Policy and Public Affairs Analyst. We appreciate you for coming on Business Breakfast.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. And still to come after the break, Brent crude futures were last down 82 cents to about 1% to $84.16 a barrel in early trading. Well, of course, that's what we'll look at after the break. Please stay with us.